This is part 2 of my positive birth story, and this time I'm going to be concentrating on Fergus's, which only happened 7 months ago, so my memory is a little bit better with his. Like I mentioned in my last video, Fergus's pregnancy in general was so different to Ava's. Like, they were night and day. The major difference was that at 16 weeks pregnant, I was diagnosed with a subchronic hematoma that pretty much lasted all the way through my pregnancy up until about 30 weeks. Now, I'm going to do a separate story time on the subchronic hematoma, because again, I don't think there's a lot out there of positive outcomes of a subchronic hematoma, because they're very scary and they can be quite touch and go. And at the time, I never really looked into it because I didn't really want to be sort of scaremongered or anything like that. But it's quite a scary thing to sort of go through in pregnancy. So that was one of the major kind of impacts of being induced as well. But the sort of other things were I had extreme pelvic girdle pain, pretty much this round about the same time that I had the subchronic hematoma, which pretty much lasted all the way up until I had them. And then I also, at 28 weeks pregnant, I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. Now, I was only like 1 point over the normal range. So mine was just diet controlled. I didn't have to take insulin or anything like that. I had to like prick my finger like 3 times a day, which was horrible, but I mean, you got on with it, it was fine. But really, my gestational diabetes never actually affected Fergus in any way, shape or form. Really, none of the things that happened through my pregnancy affected him. It was really just me. So it was actually okay. But when you get gestational diabetes, you have to transfer over to a gestational diabetes midwife, and she looks after the rest of your care. Which was lovely. She was really, really nice. And we basically spoke about the option of maybe potentially having an induction. Now, a lot of women that have got gestational diabetes are asked if they would like an induction just because their babies tend to be a lot bigger than what women that don't have gestational diabetes. So she kind of went through the kind of different options with us, and she had mentioned that our hospital was now using a new method. It's not new, it's been around for a long, long time, but we just don't use it in our district, and it's called the Foley device. So it's basically a balloon catheter that's inserted into your cervix, and it's filled with water, like the wee balloons are filled with water, and it's meant to pull down your cervix and basically start your labour, so dilates you, essentially. Now, I really liked the sound of the Foley device, mainly because there was no hormones involved in it whatsoever, and it was quite a natural method of starting labour. Now, I wasn't anxious about induction this time around. Obviously, with Ava, I was very, very anxious, but this time I kind of knew what was going to happen and was quite happy with it. So I basically said to her, yeah, if it comes to the point that I have to be induced, yeah, I'm quite happy for that to be the method. So that was fine, left that appointment feeling quite confident. Now, because of the subchronic hematoma, I had to have like scans like every 2 weeks or something like that. So we were very well known in the maternity unit, let's just say. I'm also, probably should add this in as well, I'm also rhesus negative blood group. So because I'd had all the bleeding through my pregnancy, the amount of anti-D sort of injections that I had, I should be the poster child for anti-D. Like, honestly. And a little side note to that, ironically, both of my babies are also rhesus negative, so I don't actually need all of this. Obviously, that is not known through pregnancy. So I was very, very well known up at the maternity by the end of my labour. So I had went for, again, a routine consultant appointment where I was to get my scan done, and then I was going to see my consultant. Now, at this scan, she was really, really struggling to get the measurement of his stomach correctly. So basically, at the end of this appointment, she put it down to that his stomach wasn't growing at the same rate as his thigh bone and his head. Now, I think I made a mistake in my last video. I think I said it was his thigh bone. It was actually his stomach that was the one that had the sort of discrepancy in size. So we went to speak to the doctor after it, and she was like, we think there might be a bit of a growth restriction just with his stomach. He's dropped quite a few percentiles since his last measurement, we think it best just to get an induction booked in. So I was like, okay, like that's absolutely fine. I asked at that appointment what method would be used, and she basically said that it'd be the Foley device that we would use initially. Obviously, if the Foley device did not work or you didn't want the Foley device, we do have the option of prosting and going down the same route as I had with Ava. I said at this point, no, I'm quite happy to try the Foley device, we'll go for that. So I was booked in for my induction on the 12th of September, it was a Friday, at 1 p.m. So we went along on the 12th of September at 1 p.m. and I had the balloon catheter fitted. It's a little bit just like, it's a wee bit of discomfort with it. It's not painful. It's just a wee bit sort of uncomfortable. At this point, the midwife had already said that I was between 2 and 3 centimetres dilated, so I was a perfect candidate for the Foley device to work. So I thought, oh, great, I'm going to get this fitted in the next couple of hours. My baby's going to be here. That is honestly the delusional thoughts I was having. That wasn't the case. It wasn't the case. So nothing happened on the Friday, like absolutely nothing. We wandered about the hospital, we had lunch. It was fine the Friday. Craig left at 10 o'clock to go home, and that's when things just get a wee bit uncomfortable for me. It's not painful, the Foley device, but for me, there was just a lot of pressure. I was also struggling to pee, and I was told that I would have to tell midwives if I was struggling to obviously pee. So what they did was they can release some of the water within the balloon, and that gives you a sort of very temporary sort of a moment of being able to actually go to the toilet and you're comfortable again. I did not sleep a wink. So that sort of Friday night into the Saturday, I did not sleep at all. And that was the hard part, I think, because my gestational diabetes midwife had told me that if I had to be induced because of the diabetes, I would be able to go home and I would just basically wait until the Foley device fell out in the house, and then I would go back to the hospital. But because it was a growth restriction reason that I was being induced, I wasn't allowed to do that. I had to stay in the hospital because they had to monitor the baby. I had a lovely roommate that basically spoke all night long, which was horrendous. So I just didn't sleep at all. Craig, the absolute angel, was back up on the ward at like 8 a.m. to be with me on the Saturday. And I was told that if the Foley device did not fall out naturally, that after 24 hours, like the midwives would then remove it themselves. I got to 1 p.m. in the afternoon. It still hadn't fell out. I was getting even more uncomfortable. And I'd asked for more water to be removed from the balloon, and the midwives were like, if we remove any more water, there is literally no point in like continuing with the Foley device because it's just not going to work. So I was like, right, I'll persevere with it. 1 p.m. it was removed, and the midwife instantly started laughing, and she said, Colleen, you're literally like 45 centimetres dilated. Like, you must have been holding this device in. She's like, you must be doing your Kegel exercises far too well, because this should have fell out hours ago and it just hasn't happened. So we're all feeling a bit sort of done by this point. The doctor came round to see me and basically was like, look, we're just waiting for like one of the rooms down in labour suite to be available, and we'll get you down there, we'll get your waters broken, and we'll kind of get like stuff going for you. So that's fine. So me and Craig got so excited. Like, I packed my suitcase and I was just so excited. I think I did my makeup again. Like, I did my makeup, my hair again, just so I felt good about going down. Nothing. They could not get me midwives to look after me, and they could not get me a room. I feel this is going to run out again. I don't think this is going to be as long a video as what Ava's. Like, I thought Ava's was going to be longer. But anyway, I will be back to finish this off. Bye.